Hello. Today we're going to talk about Wordle, and in particular, we will talk about guessing strategies and starting words. I'm going to talk about the guessing engine I developed and the algorithm it uses, and how that might apply to how we all play Wordle and that magic starting word. Before we get into all that, though, I want to spend a little time covering some of the discoveries I made along the way and some general thoughts on the game, including some thoughts on some things I find cool about it and some things I think make it so popular. First is the difficulty level. I think Wordle hits a sweet spot for being easy enough for most people to play and succeed at, most of the time anyway, and yet difficult enough to feel like a challenge. The choice of restricting to 5-letter words is a big factor in this, as well as giving players 6 tries to solve the puzzle. I don't think that number's an accident, and I'll talk about more of that later. Secondly, there's a no binging. Unlike many computer games, Wordle won't let us binge. There's only one puzzle per day. We may become addicted to playing it, but we can still only play one game per day. And finally, there's a community aspect to it. We're all playing the same game on any given day. We have a shared experience that way. In general, I learned a lot diving into the game internals, and like pretty much any developer or researcher that has looked under the covers of Wordle, I came away with a fond appreciation of it. They clearly put a good bit of effort and love into it. As noted, I built a guessing machine that plays Wordle. Like most such things, it takes inputs, shown at the hopper at the top, does some magic, and spits out results, or output, shown as exhaust to the right. Whether a human or a computer, we're all using the same basic mechanism to solve Wordle puzzles. We make a guess, we get a clue back from Wordle, and from that we try to determine what word to guess next. Whether we realize it or not, we're also deciding what words not to guess, or at least keeping track of what words cannot be the correct answer. One of the inputs to the guessing machine is the input word list. This is the list of 5-letter words that could be the answer to the puzzle. On the initial guess, this is simply our entire vocabulary of 5-letter words. The next input is the guess we're making. Here we start with slate. Given that guess, Wordle gives us back the clue in the usual yellow, green, and black or gray shading for each letter of our guess. With those inputs, the guessing engine does its thing and produces some outputs. The first output is the new word list, with some of the words from the input word list eliminated, based on the clue we got from Wordle. In this case, all words that have an S, L, A, or E are eliminated. We got a green for our T, which means it's in the answer and in the correct place, the 4th letter. Therefore, all words that don't have a T as the 4th letter can also be eliminated. And that's the new list, shown as one of the outputs. The other output is the selected next guess, in this case, north. We'll come back to how it comes up with this guess, but for now, we'll look at what happens next. Since north isn't the answer, we take the outputs from this round and use them as inputs for the next. So now, we take the outputs from the previous step and shove them into the hopper. That is, the inputs for this guess are the new word list we generated from the prior guess with some of the words eliminated, and the new guess. This gives us a new clue. The guessing engine now does the exact same thing again, producing a new word list with more words eliminated based on the new clue, along with the next guess, in this case, month. And look at that, month is the answer. Bingo! We solved the puzzle in 3 guesses. Each clue eliminates more words until ultimately we converge on the answer. And so that's the basics of the process. We start with the input word list and guess and clue. It generates a new word list with words eliminated along with another guess. We then use those outputs as inputs and repeat the process until we either match the correct answer or run out of tries. So how does it come up with the next word to guess? It makes the selection based on the maximum number of words eliminated by that guess. Given the new word list, the list of possible words that could be the answer, it goes one by one for each possible guess. It checks how many words will be eliminated by that guess for each of the remaining possible answers. It chooses the word with the lowest average number of remaining answer possibilities, or in other words, the maximum number of words eliminated. We start with our initial word list, essentially our entire vocabulary of 5-letter words, over 2,300 words. We make a guess, in this case slate, and that results in a new list with many words eliminating, leaving in this case 37 words that could be the answer to the puzzle. The guessing engine then loops through all guesses to see how many words would be left for every one of the possible remaining answers. Then it picks the one with the lowest average, known as the mean, the smallest resulting word list. In this case, that word was north, which it uses as the inputs for another pass. It generates a new word list with more words eliminated, and here we see it guesses the correct word, month. We should note here that computers have perfect memory, or perfect recall. Computers have no emotion or affinity to particular words. They either know a word or they don't. For any word the computer has been taught, it has 100% perfect recall. That's not how human brains and recall works, at least not for most of us. We don't know everything about human memory and recall, but we don't think it works like computers at all. The networks involved in memory and recall are constantly changing, being rewired in our brains. How our brains recall a set of words from our vocabulary one day can be very different a year later. Generally, though, words that we use more frequently will be more readily accessible, easier to come to mind. That's one factor in the difficulty of a Wordle puzzle. How common is that word? Computers are also really good at doing a lot of brute force calculations really quickly, whereas most humans don't solve puzzles like Wordle that way. Let's look at an example. Say I want to toss you a ball from across the room. If I asked you to solve the various math involved in the velocity, angles, gravity, and so on, to identify exactly where the ball will be, even someone familiar with all the Newtonian mechanics involved isn't going to be able to solve all those equations on pen and paper or in their head in the time it takes the ball to fly from my hand to theirs. And yet, when I toss the ball, most people catch it. There are some cool videos showing squirrels always landing on their feet when tossed into the air. Their brains immediately do all the calculus to know exactly the spot they are going to land. They immediately fix their eyes on this spot and remain fixed on it as their bodies tumble and flip through the air. I'm pretty sure those squirrels never attended a physics class, but they are still somehow able to do the equivalent of some pretty complex calculations in mere milliseconds. Anyway, The point is, computers are really good at doing a lot of brute force calculations really quickly with perfect precision. But consciously doing dozens of brute force tests and comparisons is probably not the way most humans solve Wordle puzzles. Our subconscious mind is probably doing some of that for us as we ponder words that fit the clues or don't fit, behind the scenes in ways we don't even fully understand. So analysis based on things like the guessing engine I built and those others have built only goes so far when comparing to results actual humans get in solving these puzzles. So how did it pick the first guess, slate? It used the same algorithm, the same criteria. I had the engine pre-compute the resulting word list for every guess for every answer word. The guesses with the lowest average resulting word list size are considered our best starting words, the words that eliminated the most words on the first guess. The guesser picks one of these from the top 25 at random as its starting word. And here are, drum roll, the top 20 starting words computed using this method. But what word is really the best? Even though raise is at the top of the list based on this criteria, and it certainly is a good starting word, it's difficult to say what is the very best. Playing a hard mode, the top 25 ranked starting words all solve the puzzle in an average of 3.2 to 3.4 guesses. Playing any of these top ranked words should give you a good chance to solve the Wordle puzzles. I ran simulations of every possible guess on every Wordle puzzle in both easy and hard mode, and based on that data, here are the words that come up as best starting words. For playing hard mode, least or trace have the fewest turns to win with the highest success rate. For playing easy mode, slate wins. Again, the difference between the best and worst of these top 20 words is negligible. You could probably do okay even picking any of the top 50 words, but I didn't go that far in running simulations. So what's up with all this hard mode, easy mode stuff? Hard mode is one of the Wordle settings. Wordle describes it as any revealed hints must be used in subsequent guesses. Intuitively, it might seem like hard mode would always be better. Why would you guess a word that doesn't match the clues, and therefore we know it cannot be the answer word? Why indeed? Well, because we can use that trick to eliminate more possible words and get closer to our answer word. Even though such a guess is a wasted guess in that it cannot solve the puzzle, it can be an advantage in some cases. Consider the following clue, showing we have A, T, C, H as the last four letters of our answer and an unknown first letter. There are several possible solutions. Playing hard mode, we can only eliminate one letter at a time because our guess word has to end in A, T, C, H. We could run out of guesses before we hit the right word. Playing easy mode, we could guess a word like clamp to test a lot of possibilities in one guess, thereby either giving us a hit or thereby telling us what that first letter is, or eliminating several of the possibilities. Initially, my guessing engine always played hard mode. In hard mode, the guesser can fail in cases like these. It has to pick at random because all the possible choices are ranked equally. There's a caveat here. When playing easy mode, to really get the full advantage of it, it's best to have a large vocabulary of 5-letter guesses. When the guessing engine is playing easy mode, it picks guesses from the vocabulary of words that Wordle allows, almost 13,000 words. There are some really obscure words in there, and a number of questionable ones. Like, for example, one I don't even know how to pronounce, spelled HWYLS. It's plural. Yes, that's a real word. British, defined as a melodic chanting style of Welsh preaching. Anyway, it's a guess Wordle will accept, but not everyone would have this word in their vocabulary ready to use to take down a Wordle puzzle. In this way, the guessing engine playing easy mode has a pretty big advantage over human players, so the results are probably not as reflective of those a real human player might get. For most of the Wordle solutions, playing hard mode versus easy mode doesn't make much difference. But in some cases, like this ATCH example, it makes a big difference. I mentioned that one of the things that makes Wordle popular is that it's a good moderate difficulty level, so a lot of people can be successful playing the game, but still be challenged. We've also talked about how each guess and corresponding hint or clue helps us eliminate words. Usually, this happens surprisingly quickly, even with less than the perfect guess. Starting with any of the top 20 starting words, we'll leave between 60 and 80 words on average, with a worst case between 175 and 260 words. In most cases, after that first guess, we'll be left with less than 100 words, often less than 50 words. From there, a good second guess can take that down to a handful of words, and so on. So even with less than optimal guesses, most of the time we will converge on the answer within 6 tries. There are exceptions, of course, like some of those discussed previously. We can struggle with double letters or unusual words, and a few Wordle answers even have triple letters. If we take this case of month, guessing slate for the first word leaves us with 37 words as the possible answer. At that point, even if we guess the worst possible choice, Fritz, that brings it down to 13 words remaining. From those, if we again guess the worst possible guess, motto, we are left with only 2 options, the answer, month, and mouth. You're still going to get the answer in 6 tries, even with pretty awful guesses. And really, who is going to guess Fritz on the second try, and motto with double O and double T on the third try? So even with fairly weak guesses, we arrive at the word, in most cases, within 6 tries. It'd be frustrating for a lot of people if one tended to fail or lose the game on a regular basis. 6 guesses keeps the game fun while still providing a challenge. The best starting word is like a holy grail of Wordle. We've used one algorithm here to come up with the best starting word, but it's only fractionally better than several others. Other researchers have done their own calculations to arrive at a different best starting word. How much effect choosing one over the other might have on human play is probably pretty minimal. Any of these top starting words will get you off to a good start. The guessing engine described here sets a benchmark of about 3.2 to 3.4 turns to win. But it has perfect recall and, when playing easy mode, has an impressive guessing vocabulary. It's probably not realistic to expect to match this benchmark, especially over the long term. Finally, a lot of people have asked me if there are tricks, things like patterns one could use and so on. In my analysis, I would say no. The creators did an amazing job distributing the words. I looked for a lot of possible patterns, like are Mondays easier than Fridays, starting letter patterns, patterns for harder versus easier words, and so on. And really, there's nothing there. I recommend just have fun, play Wordle, and take every day as a new day. Thanks for listening.